It's a very nice and quiet neighborhood. We barely have any problems.
So when 79-year-old Betty Lundy heard about the deadly shooting and what exactly happened, she was completely caught off guard.
I was surprised to know that they had problem right there on Franklin Avenue and North Russia Blade.
The NOPD tells us around 2 o'clock this morning, a homeowner living in the 2300 block of Franklin Avenue heard his alarm going off, letting him know his shed was open. Investigators say that's when he saw two men in his yard. He picked up two handguns, went outside, and confronted the suspects while they were allegedly trying to steal his generator. When confronted, one of the suspects allegedly turned around and faced the homeowner. The man shot at the suspects multiple times, hitting one of them in the chest. The other suspect ran off. Officers found the suspect on the ground, shot several times. He later died at the hospital.
I don't like to see anybody die being killed, being on other people's property, because they shouldn't be.
The suspects may have been on his property, but was the homeowner justified in shooting at them?
From a legal perspective, we've got to look at the facts of the case.
Our legal analyst, Chick Foray, says the detached shed will be a significant factor in this investigation.
The question is that his dwelling? Because under Louisiana law, there are greater protections for someone who is inside their dwelling or their automobile.
Another important factor, did the homeowner fear for his life at the time of the shooting?
Remember, there's another fact that's involved in this case, and that is that the person who was shot and killed, the burglar, turned towards him, which could be viewed by prosecutors as an aggressive move, and therefore he shot and fired and killed him.
As we wait for more answers, Foray says the district attorney's office will likely look into the matter. In New Orleans, I'm Carice Jackman, Eyewitness News.
The Orleans Parish Coroner's Office plans to release the cause of death and the man's name after an autopsy is done and the family is notified.